If you've been to one of my chats previously, you'll know that this is a little bit different from most of the other chats. We've been pursuing the millennial investor market since before it was a market. That's meant, for the most part, reporting on cannabis opportunities, blockchain recently, until blockchain became a terrible thing. But our theory has always been that resources is an area where you're ripe for a younger investor to come in and start actually considering your companies. The problem is the resource companies don't consider the younger investor in any way, shape, or form. But before we get to that, who I am, I used to be a journalist at the Vancouver Sun. I used to sit behind David Baines as he reported on you lot and slammed his monitor on a regular basis and gave himself all sorts of heart problems.
For the best editorial on junior mining, visit cambridgehouse.com/mining. Click the link in the description below to learn more.
But I always thought when I was at the Sun that the beautiful middle ground in covering financial markets in Vancouver would be to be part David Baines and part House Street scumbag. So that's kind of where we set Equity.Guru. We use honest journalism to cover your companies. We take money from companies to include them in the conversation, but we do not guarantee those companies positive coverage. That differentiates us from just about everybody that I know of. Taking money from a company and then giving them negative coverage isn't necessarily something that you would think companies would run towards, but when legitimacy is a marketing niche in this industry, occasionally taking one to the balls is actually a respectful move. So that's what we do. We cover companies in the public markets. We're ruthless. We're like the little league coach that makes his kid run extra laps to justify a place in the team. If you're a good company, that shouldn't be a problem because you know that you're going to get great coverage. And it's going to mean something because people know they're not being sold a bill of goods. If you're a terrible company or an executive that plans on having the last 300K in the company to himself, then our deals are not a good deal for you. So why we're here today, I'm not going to tell you what to buy. I'm not going to try and tout you some stock picks or tell you what sector is going to be great. I'm pretty much exclusively talking to the guys that run resource companies, and I guess by virtue of that, the shareholders of those resource companies, which can apply some pressure to their executives to do things in a different way. That means you, Kevin. I don't know who Kevin is, but I figured there's a Kevin in the room somewhere who's like, what? What did I do? So look around you guys. The object of this conference is to find investors for your companies. I don't know about you, but there's some lights shining off a lot of bald heads in this room. No offense, I got the grays here. It takes me a while to get the gray streaks in, but if you walk around the conference floor, you find everybody's doing the same thing they were doing last year.
For the best editorial on junior mining, visit cambridgehouse.com/mining. Click the link in the description below to learn more.
Every backdrop is the same backdrop as it was last year. We got a picture of a truck. We got a guy in a vest and a hard hat. Invest in us. Here's a map. Here are some numbers. None of that really works on a new investor. It only works on the old investors. And you know what? The old investors, they're on a fixed income. If they lose 10 grand, that 10 grand hurts. Where are the women? Where are the young kids? Where are the CEOs that are talking to those women and young kids? My company talks directly to those guys, which means we swear a lot. So in advance, if curse words hurt, you might want to leave now. But those guys, they invest in things that they understand. So that's why they've been in the cannabis market, which has pretty much driven the markets for the last couple of years. They also like technology because they have it in their pockets. And they like biotech a little bit because their parents get sick. And they like blockchain. No, they don't really like blockchain and crypto. That's trash. So my belief is this, is that when you guys are dealing with your proposed investor audience and you ignore the younger investors because they're too hard, because you think they don't like mining, they like environmentalism, they don't want First Nations people to be abused. These are all true, but the real problem, the real thing that stops the young people from investing is you don't talk to them about what they're investing in. They don't know what a PEA is, they don't know what grade is, they don't give a shit about your drill depth. You have to explain to them why that matters. They want a story. They obviously care about the environment, but you know what? Everything in their lives has a battery in it that has to be charged. Everything they do involves a phone that someone in a sweatshop made and they quietly ignore. The one part of the previous slide of misconceptions about millennials that is true is they don't understand you. And you don't understand them because you haven't made the effort to. But I tell you what, all the guys that I sit down and have sushi with on a Friday night in Gastown that have worked 18-hour days, 6 days a week, and have stock options, and no one ever talks to them about investing ever, unless it's about their RSP. So I think millennials are actually okay with resources, and I'll give you some evidence to that. My 10-year-old daughter spent the weekend mining coal, gold, diamond, lapis lazuli, and emeralds. Now, she doesn't live in Burkina Faso, and I haven't sold her into white slavery, and we aren't drilling a lithium project in our backyard in Steveston. No, she was mining using this. This is the number one selling video game of all time. If you have grandkids, they play it. If you have kids, they play it. If you're under the age of 25, you've played it. Look, he's found gold. It's great. The kids dig mining. Most of the games that are out there that are successful involve a mining element. In fact, Minecraft was released in 2011. 154 million copies have been sold. That means 154 million kids have spent weeks of their lives mining for resources. Now those kids, now they're 23. Now they have jobs. They have disposable income. And they've got some free income because no one's getting a mortgage in this town. This is not an outlier. Games that are on the market right now that involve mining include Fortnite, which you've all heard about because parents are freaked out by it, Fallout 4, No Man's Sky. There's more, but I'm just going to run out of space. Mining is a video game trope. It's in every game. If you want resources, you mine for them. And to mine for them, you have to find them. This is what you guys do for a living. You have an ability to connect with your grandkids that you haven't even thought about. They're doing the same thing you are, except they're not blowing private placements on country club memberships. The hottest mining trend of 2017? Was it gold? Was it lithium? Was it cobalt? No, it was Bitcoin mining. The preteens are into mining. They've even co-opted it into their terrible fundraising schemes. So I'm obviously being cute here. I'm not suggesting that you guys should name your project after a Minecraft element or that you should go and try and sell stock to 10-year-olds. This is clearly not the case. But what I am telling you is that your conceptions, your preconceptions, your misconceptions, that nobody under the age of 60 is interested in putting money into a mine is bullshit. In fact, this could be your golden era if you just reached a little bit down past the guys in the Zimmer frames and towards the kids. Because your investor base is dying. For real, they're dying. They're literally dying. Every mining show, when they do a rollback, there are shareholders that stop answering the phones because they're not existing anymore. There are guys in this room, I'd say statistically, at least 3, that at the end of their 4-month trading hold will not be able to trade any paper, if you know what I'm talking about. Younger investors are different. They're not looking for a 10% on their mutual funds. They're looking for a 10 times, and they are willing to hang around and go through the ups and downs to get there. Day traders are a different story. You guys don't want to appeal to day traders because they'll cut you. But the younger investors, if you look at what they do when they're investing in cannabis stocks, they become evangelists. They go to social media and they tell 10,000 of their friends that they just doubled their money. Now, I don't know what 65-year-old retiree you've ever seen tell anybody about their wins, but they shut the fuck up about them. They keep them close to their chest because they don't want the ex-wife learning. The millennials, they go straight to online and they tell everybody because they want to be influencers. They want people to follow them. So they start bringing people into your stock, your IR guys taking all the credit, but it's nothing to do with him. The younger investors are, however, hard work. If you don't hit your milestones, they will slice and dice you. And they don't care about defamation laws. They'll call you a criminal and all the rest. I get all that stuff. If you try to oversell them, they detect it like a fart in an elevator and they will judo flip your oversell into an overhype. And if you're middle of the road, if you're out there with your backdrop, with your truck and your hard hat guys and your map, they're just going to ignore you. They don't want any part of that because what they want is that 10x. They want the companies that are going to step outside of the usual and run hard into a different direction. And if you really want to figure out that technologically advanced side of things, hire a kid. I can't tell you how many 3-man offices I've been to where the average age is more than my great-grandmother. Younger investors invest where they live. They invested in cannabis because they use it. They invested in cryptocurrency because they used it, or at least collected it. They invested in tech stocks because they're covered in technology. These are the things that they understand. But you all know what they also understand? Batteries, green energy. They understand electronic components, hybrid vehicles. This is the future of the world that you guys are all out there supplying, but you're not forming the connective tissue between that end product and the beginning product that you guys are digging out of the ground. Now, these young kids, you might think that they don't have a lot of money, or that there's not a lot of reason to go out there and actually find them. But think about the cannabis market. As inflated and stupid as it is, that market is 95% young people making an extra $1,000 at the end of the month and putting it into some crappy shell that's never going to return them any money. Same as they did with blockchain. You guys followed them into blockchain because you're like, hell, there's money to be made. Follow them into mining. So, if you want to know how to keep a millennial's attention as a resource company, the cannabis industry has great examples for you. Now, the cannabis industry and the resource industry are very similar in a lot of ways. At the beginning of the cannabis industry, there was a lot of promise. Here's what we're going to do once we get a license, once the laws change, once people can actually buy our product. It was a 5-6 year lead in. Same as resource companies. If you're an explorer, you've got that 5 or 6 year lead into the place where you actually maybe have something that looks like maybe it one day will be a mine. But the cannabis companies, between that starting point and that finishing point, they were busy. They weren't just putting out process-driven news releases. Our office did that this week. Our license isn't at number so-and-so in the queue. They went out there and they actually did the work. So in 2014, getting a license was a big deal. 2015, it was getting a facility. 2016, it was 1 million square feet. 2017, acquisitions. 2018, finally, we get to the starting point of the industry with recreational use. Now, this is the exact same thing that you mining companies are doing. We explore, we fly a helicopter over it, we stick some drills in the ground, we wait for the results. We got some more drill results coming. Hey, we might have some more drill results coming. The way I liken it is, if I came to you and said, I have a horse, and it hasn't raced yet, but it's going to win the Kentucky Derby, and I need you to put $100 on it today, you wouldn't do it, right? Because your chances are that it's going to hit that Kentucky Derby are pretty low, and it's going to be 5 years away, and it's going to win all these little races in the middle before it gets to that place. But you'd put money on it in the maiden handicap against a bunch of other newbie horses. And if it won, you'd put money on the next race, and then the next race. Well, that's the resource market, right? No one's putting money into an explorer thinking that he's going to be producing mine out of it. It's lots of little wins. It's exactly the same as the cannabis industry. These guys are pre-tuned to invest in the resource market if you present it to them in the same way. Well, not the same way the cannabis market did because it's full of shit, but in the sort of forward-thinking way of this is how we differentiate ourselves, this is what we're going to do that's different, this is how we have something novel as opposed to everybody else. Now, an example of what I would say if I was running a resource company I might do differently to try and appeal to a different kind of investor. How many of you out here are telling people about your project at your booth and telling them how great it is? And they're trying to envision it in their mind, and all they can really envision is hole in the ground, not yet hole in the ground. Why not do a virtual reality tour? Pay 10 grand, take a camera out, show them what it looks like out there on the floor, put on some glasses here at the booth so they can actually see the land that you're talking about. They can see your mill, and they can see the shafts, and they can see the drills going into the ground. No one does this. Educational pieces. There are people walking around here, I guarantee you today, that have come here looking for information about mining opportunities that have no idea how a mining explorer works. And there's no one here who has a booklet that says, this is what a mining explorer does from soup to nuts. Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. This is what a good grade is in a gold drill. This is what a good grade is in lithium. This is what a good grade is in... Nobody talks. You guys are all assuming that the knowledge is already there. You're like baseball scouts talking to other baseball scouts. There's a giant audience that has no idea what a good grade is. And when you put your drill results out and you're waiting for the big pop and you don't get it, it's because you haven't put that into a perspective that people can actually understand. How many of you are talking to end users and making offtake agreements before you actually have your drill results? Nobody. The lithium guys, they started doing it. The cobalt guys have been doing it. But the gold guys, the silver guys, the nickel guys, the zinc guys, you're also focused on drill results come out in 2 weeks. And you're not focused on, in 5 years, we're going to sell to these companies. And so we're starting the discussion with those companies. And we're doing the deals with those companies that if we do happen to have £1 million of something, we're going to sell it to them nice and cheap. Make sure it's out the door. You guys need to rethink every part of your operation. How many CEOs in this entire convention center have set their compensation package to say, you pay me half of what we agreed. The other half comes upon completion of my milestones. How many CEOs have said, I want to be paid more than what you're offering me based on the excellence that I'm going to show you over the next 6 months, 12 months? How many companies have said, we don't need an office, we've only got 3 people. We got one old guy, we got a second old guy, we got a girl who answers the phone. We could do that from home. We can save 120 grand a year on that. But you don't, because everyone else has the corner office on House Street, everybody else has the pretty girl answering the phone, no one's doing anything differently. This other thing, this is a really simple thing I don't understand. Why do you guys keep calling your companies XYZ Resources or XYZ Metals? Why not XYZ Technology Metals or Battery Metals or Electronic Components or just straight up technologies? You're appealing to that same market out there. There's 300 of you out there trying to get the same 100 investors. And there's 10,000 investors out there that aren't interested in resources, but they're interested in technology. How many of you guys speak frankly to your investors before you actually when you put your news releases out? You all say, hey, we really hope that these drill results are going to be great. But none of you actually say, here's what would be great for us. Here's what would be shitty for us, but here's what would be great for us. If we hit these numbers, we'll be really happy. No one ever says that. Now, I know you've got regulators that get in the way and say what you can say and what you can't say, but so do the cannabis companies. Cannabis companies can't even market themselves. They're not allowed to. They're not allowed to say things like lifestyle or exciting. They can't put their logos on their product. And yet, they've overhyped that market to the point of ridiculousness, working their way around that system and outflanking each other all the way. And please, lastly, can somebody please make a website that doesn't look like it was made on GeoCities? That'd be a nice thing. Is anybody doing it right? Is Integra Resources. Formerly, those guys were in Integra Gold. They came to PDAC with terabytes of mining data that everybody else keeps close to their chest, and they made it open source and said, we'll give $100,000 to the guy who finds the best targets for us. It was amazing, led the whole conference. They went out there, they didn't wait for the 10 years to production. They knew they had a little bit of gold in one spot, so they just went in and got it, and that financed all of their exploration, $100 million exit, and now they're doing it again. Global Energy Metals. Man, I don't know if these guys have any ore. I don't know if they have any potential, but they've got a Tesla out there, and that thing's been surrounded by people all through the conference. Barrion, it's right there on their investor deck, mining for millennials. Young guys, they're going to do it differently. They're going to break all the rules. They're at the back. You can go and talk to them. Maybe they got nothing. Maybe they're just a run-of-the-mill mining shell that's doing the same thing everybody else is, but they're at least trying to go to a different market. This is Cow Minerals. Again, I don't know if it's a good company, but they crowdfunded the first 2 financings they did for people who aren't accredited investors, right? Different markets. Visual Capitalist out there is doing informational materials for companies that use infographics to break things down in ways that no one else does. They're a competitor of mine, and I'm loath to support competitors, but how many of you guys have actually put together an infographic that says, hey, never invested in a mining company before, here's everything you need to know? Nobody. And here's Nano One Materials. You go to their website. This is a company that's rebuilding the technology behind rechargeable batteries. They've got a plant out in Burnaby that shows you how it's done. It's unique technology, patented up and down. And if you call them, they will actually walk you out there to Burnaby for a walk around. Everything on their website explains everything they do. It's deep informational knowledge because they know that the average investor doesn't get it. They need the handheld. They need to be walked in. And I'm done. If there are any mining explorer execs out there that would like more information about this, I'm happy to rant in person. We're out there on the Media Row, otherwise known as Death Row, because no one comes over here. Feel free to go visit our website at Equity.Guru. And if I've offended anybody here, I've done my job. Thank you very much.